Welcome to Creatacast with your host, David Welch. Today's show is going to be about submissions again. We're going to talk about ways to get your submissions to me. And I also have a Patreon page. So for those who utilize Patreon, enjoy Patreon, make sure that you get on there and, check it out. So that way we can start making this show a lot bigger, adding multiple components to Creatacast and what we're trying to do. Okay, so I do have to lead with, yes, we have a challenge. The challenge is going to be to compose something Christmas related. It could be a short fiction, creative nonfiction. It could be a dialogue. It could be a poem. Whatever you got there in the belly of the beast, so to speak. I want it all. Please submit. Now the submissions can go directly to dwelch9627@gmail.com or creatacast2018@gmail.com. That way we can get those submissions going, and I can get a chance to read all of them, and we can move forward and get the show a little bit more broad than it has been. Okay, so we want to make sure that you get your poetry read. Please submit, and it'll be for the Friday show. On Friday, we will have our 45-minute show. As if you did tune into last week, it did go a little over because I read a longer fiction piece. So if you do have the longer fiction pieces, I will front load those. As far as our reading, poems tend to be much shorter. So, let's get after it. I know we have a lot of things going on this season. It's the holidays. We want to make sure that we're doing everything that we can to make sure everyone has a good holiday season. And sometimes writing is put on the back burner. You don't have to let it be put on the back burner, and you can hear your words spoken live on air on my podcast. So keep that work coming. Keep it coming to me. Let's keep writing. Let's keep reading. My reading challenge for myself. I do have 10,000 words a week that I'm currently writing on my novel. But if I can sneak some writing in, I'm currently reading If It Bleeds, Predator If It Bleeds, which is a collection of Predator short fiction or shorter fiction, all composed in one book. I am a huge fan of the Predator universe. So if your question is, do you take sci-fi submissions? I absolutely do. Sci-fi, cyberpunk, steampunk, whatever vein you write in, fantasy, whatever it is, get it to me. And, keep it under 10 pages and double space it and ensure it's in Times New Roman 12-point font. Or Arial, that's fine. But I need to be able to read it, okay? So I need to be able to have it be legible. Some of the poems that were submitted to me last week, could not read them because they were put in a different font and they were PDF, so I couldn't change it. So for those who did submit last week, I apologize for not reading them on Friday's show. But if you're going to submit them, please put them in Word or PDF, but make sure it is legible. And the different italics poems that were submitted to me, I could not read those. That's why you did not get a chance to be read on air. So it's a lesson learned. We move forward. Now, ultimately, for the month of December, I want to take all of the submissions that we get and put them in a digital magazine. So I'm still working to get that digital magazine formulated, but ultimately I want to put that together. So you as the author, please submit a small bio about yourself. That way that can be read too in the digital magazine. If you submit a picture, that's even more fantastic. That way it can add some visuals to the digital magazine. So the digital magazine will be Creatacast Volume 1. That'll be ready to go probably, let's look at the date. That way I can make sure I have it ready to go. So the 31st, during the day, I will have that digital magazine ready for those who do submit. Now, for those who are going to follow me on Patreon, we're going to modify my Patreon page to make sure that everybody gets a chance to follow me and then not be an egregious amount of money. So we're working on that. Okay. So I do want to get it to where this show becomes mainstream. So for those who are listening in the Twitterverse and those who are listening on Facebook or iHeartRadio eventually, I want you to blow this show up. You know, this is for the writer. This whole show is for the creative artist, for the writer. I want to spend a majority of the show reading your work. And if you guys don't like my voice, please send me an audio clip of you reading your work or whoever you want reading your work. And I want the raw, unpublished stuff. Stuff that, you know, if you're okay with, can be workshopped live on the air. That way we can take some feedback and, you know, look at some of the work being done. I'm trying to add a visual component to this podcast on YouTube. That will be done here shortly. I may have to record directly onto my computer, which I haven't been. I've been using my phone because this allows me to be extremely mobile. So this is a really good platform for that. So, you know, definitely want to ensure that everyone embraces the challenge this week. Everybody embraces the fact that I need submissions for my show and to venture forth and make it happen. If you have your poetry, your work in, if you're not quite finished, that's okay. You know, I will, you know, definitely, you know, entertain reading 10 pages of a non-completed story just so we can give you and your work some positive feedback. Please make sure to set yourself up for success. So for those who are utilizing Word and you're going to submit work to me, that way I'm not caught up on too many corrections when it comes to reading your work and ensuring that everything is read and looked at clearly. Go to File. If it works on my computer here in just a second, go to File, go to all the way down at the bottom, go to Options, and then go to Proofing. All right. When you go to Proofing, scroll all the way down and go to Grammar and Refinements. You click on the Settings tab, and then you go through the options and ensure that you that you check everything that you want Word to do for you. Commas, cliches, vague adjectives. Now, if you want that incorporated in your work, which is fine, you can use jargon, you can use colloquialisms, things like that, and it makes for a more creative work. And it will highlight red on mine, of course, mine picks it up, and it will highlight on yours, but that is still okay to submit. Just understand that's what you're doing. I had, with the submissions last week, everything was underlined in red, and whether it was for spelling or just grammatical errors in general, you know, just ensure that, you know, when you do submit your work, it gives a nice little edit before you get it to me. That way I can read it as you intended it to be read. Okay. So, so the two components that I'm adding mainly are the digital magazine. I want more submissions. I want clear submissions. I want audio clips if you can send them, and ensure that there is a little bio with your submission. So I'm going to limit authors, and I want everybody to listen to this, to one submission per week. Okay. Whether you want to submit, you can submit, 3 pieces as long as they're 10 pages. If you want to submit fiction, if you want to submit poetry, nonfiction, whatever have you. But I want to make sure that everybody has a chance to submit something and have the possibility to be read. Now, understand right now, I am the only one reading submissions. I do not have a staff, and it's just me looking at it. So that is what I do during the week, is when I'm not working on my own novel, I'm reading other people's submissions. That way I can, in turn, pick the submission for the week, set up the digital magazine, and ensure that your work is going to be read on Friday. So if you're out there in the Twitterverse and you are hearing me right now, listening to the podcast, I want everyone to ensure that you have at least one submission a week, okay? And if you have those submissions, unfortunately, I will not be able to carry everything over, and I would prefer if you guys did use the Creatacast 2018 at Gmail, but like I said, I still have to accept submissions on the Welch 9627 because it is currently what I started out with, and if that's all you guys know, then I will still take submissions on that. But please focus in the future to utilize the Creatacast 2018 at gmail.com. That is Creata cast, Creatacast, CAST 2018 at gmail.com. So Creatacast. All right. Another tidbit on the mechanics side of the house. When you are submitting your poems and you want specific line breaks, make sure it is formatted the way you want. Okay. I will read it as is on the page, but if it is read differently to you, then please, like I said, submit to me the voice version of what you want. Now, there are not going to be priorities when it comes to submitting a vocal version, so I will still need the written version on that submission. You can't do just the vocal. I still need the words so I can put it in the digital magazine and the bio. All right. All this will be explained in my Patreon page. And to get to my Patreon page, just type in my email to get to me, and you'll be able to find me. And the image that I'm going to use as my avatar will be the cover of my book, Hell's Waiting Room and Other Stories. That is currently not the image up there, but I am fixing that right now. All right. So again, reach out to me, make sure that we are all linked up and we are ready to go. All right, that has been saved. So look for me on Patreon. And please donate to the show. Keep me going. I'm going to go ahead and give you guys my PayPal email. My PayPal email, I think right now, is the dwelch9627 at gmail.com, but I want to make for sure. Let's see, log in. Actually, let's see. All right, the PayPal email that I have is DEMONWINGS18 at yahoo.com. All right, so go ahead and keep my show going. I take any and all. Even if it's $1, I don't care if it's $1. If you can support the show, send me some loot. That way I can keep the show going, keep the digital magazine going, and get everything going. And I'm also a professor, so my time is maximized during the early hours of the day. And I'm writing a book, and I've got a lot of things going. I've got my other political podcast going. So in order for me to keep the show going and keep it relevant and keep it moving smoothly, I do need resources because I want to build a bigger and better show. In order to have the show, I think I have Speaker Studio Pro right now, but as my podcast platform, but I definitely want to extend my ability to make the show much longer. All right. My other show is on Anchor, and that is David's Life and Observation. If you are of a political sort, please check that out. And I do have my show available, and it shows up on Twitter as well. But for Creatacast, like I said, I'm looking for submissions. I do want other work other than my work being read on here. That'd be fantastic. And we will see more of that. Just got to build the show. Okay. So I would read other work right now, but like I said, I don't have any current submissions from anyone. So I will read a poem of mine. That way we can keep this show kind of in that creative writing vein. But if anyone has any recommendations on different things that they want to propose and move forward with the show, because this is a show really about the authors, really about the writers out there, especially the raw writers. I want all of you to, have that fire under your asses in order to be cognizant, to be smart, and put together your best work and get it to me. That way it can be read. Now, you still have all the rights to that work. It's all yours. And the permission, really, if you do submit to the show, I just want permission to be able to produce that in the digital magazine. If you don't want it in the digital magazine, please declare so. That way I don't misconstrue you sending me your work for consent. All right. I would, of course, love it to get it in there, especially if I pick to read it. But I'm not going to discriminate against those who don't want it in the digital magazine. That'll be absolutely fine. If they can contact you specifically for that work, then that is also pretty cool. So let's get into one of my poems. And I think I'm looking for my Christmas poem. That way I can stay in that, holiday mindset. So let's go ahead and find that. Okay, here we go. Found it. I got so many projects on here, it's hard to keep track of it all. This one is called The Christmas Gift, and I will begin as soon as it pops up. Okay. So this is called The Christmas Gift by me. Snow-covered houses, toy-littered floors, children like quiet mouses behind tinsel lace doors, ornament-adorned trees, stockings full to the brim, cookies with "Eat these, please" written along the trim, a fire sizzling with wood sap billowing into the night, the tap, tap, tap of reindeer hooves that signal he's arrived. With presents over his shoulder, he barges right in. Cookie crumbs like small boulders fall off his bearded chin. With a soft little jingle, before you know there was ever a rift, old Kris Kringle leaves each and every child a Christmas gift. So that is The Christmas Gift. I wrote that, I believe, in 2010. And it just shows how long sometimes work is in our background. Okay, we sometimes hold on to work and, don't get it out there. And not all poetry that you submit to me has to rhyme. It does not have to rhyme. It could be freestyle, free form. It could be narrative. Whatever style you want to, do, get it to me. So that is one poem I'm going to read. I might get into another. Let's go ahead and see. I do have one short story I'm working on called Christmas Long After Earth, but that one is not ready. So let's see. Don't believe I have another Christmas one ready to go, but that's okay. We may not all have everything ready to go. And, that's why I'm asking for your work. I want your work to be read on here. I want your work to be the mover and the shaker of the show. So please, please, please ensure that I do have a chance to read it. I do have a chance to take what you have written and put it out to the world. And hopefully the reach of this show crosses the ocean. I want the reach of the show to spread all around the world. And if you do submit work in another language, please send a recording. That way it can be read. That way it could be understood the way you want it read. I do take foreign language submissions. Please do your best to translate for me. That way I can help choose that work. And, let's go ahead and make Creatacast as big as it possibly can be. I'm also looking for, once someone does submit, if somebody's willing, an author is willing to do a Q&A with me for the last Friday show of the year. That way we can have a very nice lengthy Q&A, and that one will probably dominate the entirety of the show. So I'm looking for an author around December 28th to do Creatacast with me, and I want them to call in, and I will have questions prepared so we can do a Q&A and get into the nitty gritty of what works for them as an author, what works for them as a writer, and what they do to work around things like writer's block, stagnant or being overwhelmed with other things and not getting back to your writing. Because let's get real, we all have lives. We all do other things other than write, but a lot of us tend to write nearly every day. And if we do write, we write in a certain way that, gets us from point A to point B mentally. Okay. So again, I want to read a poem that I wrote. This is in German. Oh no, man, the file's corrupted. No worries. I don't know how that happened. I like that poem. It's alright. I will find something else to read. No worries. Let's see. Do-do-do-do. Do-do-do-do-do-do. Alright. So does anyone have any idea about listening into the Twitterverse, listening everywhere else? There's anything mechanically people are running into with fiction, poetry, whatever have you. If you're running into something and you're running into something complicated, let me know. Sneezed on air. There we go. That's what you need to do it. All right. So I did find a poem that I do want to read. So let's go ahead and get into that one. It's called Why Everyone Loves Jane. She isn't a plain Jane. Beautiful almond eyes behind amber frames reach into your heart, grasping your roaring waterfall, beating love, leaving you breathless. Her warm smile, like a friend, feelings in tune to absorb the pain of barbed wire words and melancholic quicksand. A childlike laugh sings to your ear with melody and harmony, causing knees to crumble like a house of cards. A lithe dancing figure as entrancing to the soul and mind as humanly allow. I do apologize for misreading that. Her gait sways like the lioness stalking a prey, slow, deliberate with a very soft crunch of grass. Skin, a light mocha with cream around pink pouty, kissable lips, and hair like forest sap under an orange spring morning glow, changes sorrow to joy, hate to love, and madness to sanity. A woman showing every gift of wit, passion, and peace has nature at her whim, a cool breeze under a sweltering sun, a fireplace on an icy, chill winter night, seasons unto herself, adorning the serenity of every landscape. Celestial oracles call her goddess. We know her as Jane, a legend of men and benefactor to womankind. And that poem right there is Why Everyone Loves Jane. And I like reading poems on here because they are quicker to read. My fiction pieces do tend to drag on a bit, but I will get into some of my flash fiction. I love reading flash fiction and getting into the mechanics of that and letting people really mull my short fiction around. If you have a response to yesterday's The Animals Know and would love to give me feedback, please send me an email to dwelch9627@gmail.com. If you have general feedback about the show, I'd love to hear it. Please send me an email or you can give me a call. You can call me at 801-388-7083. That feedback would be greatly appreciated. That way I can understand how to have a more smooth reading cadence. And then also just kind of what you're hearing with my stories and what may be missing. So that would be amazing for that feedback. And I do take all feedback. It doesn't mean I'm going to alter anything, but it does let me know that people are listening and that they have a bigger vision for my work than I'm putting into it. Okay, which is fantastic. And again, going back to feedback and going back to writer circles and going back to last week's show with workshops, it is very, 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 very important for budding writers to be workshopped and often. It may be the best way to build yourself as a writer, and then also another way to get that feedback. You may not like the feedback, but the way to get the feedback that you may need is a serious amount of rejection letters. Like I said, I have them, stacked from the floor to the roof in my house, and they're plentiful. And I have submitted to journals, I've submitted to magazines, digital publications, periodicals, you name it. I have submitted work to it. Okay, so be conscientious that though you may like your work, there might be something about the way other people are reading it that is not landing with your reader. So be open to feedback, be open to criticism, and please be open to improving where you're going with your writing, where you're going with your work. That way everyone can build this community, help this community get much larger than it is, and rise above where we're at and how we need to get there and where we need to be. So I'm going to bring this show to a close. I definitely want to get crunching on my my novel, and I've got another novel that I definitely need to get back to working on, because I've put a serious amount of work into it, and it would be a shame not to get it to its final realization, I would say. So again, if I need to take on those submissions for the week, please send them to the email, and I will work really diligently to make this show much bigger. And for those who are afraid to submit your work and not be maybe picked up for the week, there's always next week. Okay? So please, again, support the show. You can find me on email or on PayPal. Please help finance the show. Make us bigger. Make me elevate to the status where I can be well received by the larger world community, and ensure we have enough time to get through and workshop what we need to workshop and get through and read what we need to read for those raw budding writers out there. I love you all. Please say hi to all your characters for me. Wave hello to your current poem, and acknowledge yourself that you are an author. You don't need to be a published writer or a published author to be called an author, to be considered an author. You need to have that in your heart before you move forward from today. Have it in your heart. I'm going to publish. I'm going to have the world receive my work. I'm going to do whatever it is I have to do to make sure that my characters see the light of day, to make sure my poetry sings into somebody's soul, and work on getting published. If it starts off with a small little magazine, reward your success. Just realize that you have made it to some place somebody else couldn't have or didn't put the time and effort to do. If you win a scholarship, and there are definitely creative writing scholarships out there, which is something I ultimately want to build with the show. Honestly, one of the biggest things that I want to build with this show is that I want those creative writing, those MFA people, those undergraduate creative writing students to submit to the show. And then after we get, a big enough following and I get enough revenue built with the show, is that I can start awarding scholarships. I can start awarding a fund for your creative writing program. That's the destination that I want to get to. I want to ensure that those creative writers across the globe who are attending school, wherever you're attending, gets the help and the scholarships that they need as well. All right. So the dream for the show, we take those raw authors, get their voice out into the world, get their work and their achievements out to the world. And we also want to work on the digital magazine. We want to get to the place where ultimately I have enough help and assistance and financing for the show to catapult this show into a scholarship fund. Ultimately, I want everyone to be able to benefit from that scholarship and be awarded a large sum, because we all know as creative writers, it's few and far between for us to get really quality large sum scholarships. So donate to the PayPal if you're a angel investor out there and you want to invest in a program that will reach a large audience. Invest in me. Have your trust in me that I will continue this show, make it my staple for every Friday to ensure that young authors get their recognition, get their work out there, and get into a digital magazine that will build a reputation for times to come. And I want this scholarship to mean something. All right? Hey, baby. Working on my show.